Um, a moment that's, again, a little bit more personal, but I think you can argue had bigger ripple effects than we might have conceived at the time. The Seahawks and the infamous decision by Pete Carroll to throw rather than hand the ball to beast mode. You know, we're talking about Terry Bradshaw as guaranteed. You would have thought Marshawn Lynch from the 2-yard line is guaranteed to cook up another beastquake and deliver you a Lombardi. Would have been back-to-back titles for Seattle if you go with the narrative, as most people tend to, that Lynch would have punched the ball into the end zone from that position. And it would have done a number of things, Colin, which I think is why it's an intriguing one on this list, both in the immediate Seahawks winning back-to-back titles, copper fastening Russell Wilson's place in NFL history, whatever would have happened after then, even if he would have ended up going to Denver, as he has done one way or the other. But would it also, and you mentioned this in the context of another sliding doors moment earlier on, you wonder, would it have hastened the end for Tom Brady in New England? Would it have stopped them from doing what they ultimately ended up doing at the end of that dynastic run? I think there's a thread to be taken, and you consider the current conversation that's going on about the depressed running back market and a lot of running backs in the NFL. Would have been a big win for beleaguered running backs. You know, when you're thinking of GMs making decisions over these big name backs, you get to those kind of critical situations, you want a guy who can guarantee you those 1 or 2 yards. And Marshawn Lynch was that guy, never had the opportunity to do it. To his undying credit, you know, has never really dumped on Pete Carroll or dumped on the decision in any major way, as other players I'm sure would have done. But it's a crazy play call, Colin, and it's just, even now, hard to get your head around. Pete Carroll, to be fair to him, has kind of owned it and poked fun at it a couple of times, because what else can you do? If he had it all back over again, there's no doubt he would have done it differently.
Yes, you have to imagine so. I mean, again, it's one of those ones where you remember it at the time, it sticks in your memory. You remember the commentary. I mean, Collinsworth and Al Michaels in absolute disbelief. You know, I think Collinsworth is like, I can't believe it. And Al Michaels like, no, me either. And Collinsworth like, I can't believe it. They're just absolute stunned that you got Marshawn Lynch and you don't give him the ball. And again, like this was the height of beast mode. He was on a 4-year stretch, which, while he may not have, gotten the yards that Terrell Davis did, this 4-year stretch, he was unbelievable. And just the strength and the power. And it didn't matter that you knew it was coming. A bit like the Eagles and the QB sneak. You couldn't stop it. There was no way to stop this. And yet, there'll always be the fact that the Seahawks got too cute. And what was the reason for it, and how did it happen? And there's the infamous cut to Richard Sherman on the sideline and his face, and just utter kind of disbelief around the stadium. And we talked, I suppose, about the Immaculate Reception and the rallying moment. And again, like the belief this gave to the Patriots, the fact that they got the ball. And I suppose, like, when you consider, they should have given it to Beast Mode, but they looked at it and they said, well, Russell Wilson hasn't been intercepted at the goal line previously. And Malcolm Butler did make a great play on the ball. It was the wrong call, but he made the play. And so if you're the Patriots, you look at it and you go, yeah, this is us. This is who we are. In the tightest of moments, we come out on top. And that was absolutely a rallying, a galvanizing moment for them. And how different could it have been for Russell Wilson and that Seahawks defense? The fact that they ultimately only get, the one ring is, what a lot of people, I suppose, kind of holding against them when you hold them up to other great defenses. But if they'd gotten a second one, would we be talking about those guys as the greatest defense rather than the 85 Bears? So there are huge implications to what happened right at the end of this game. And it will be one that people will forever scratch their heads at. Now, Pete has kind of gone on to redemption. Russ less so, you would have to say, as things stand now. So yeah, what will the talking points on this be in another decade's time?
And two side notes from a coaching perspective, Colin, just to follow up on that, which I think are interesting. Firstly, it's usually in those big pressure moments, coaches revert to type. And this I find fascinating. And the Carroll goes the opposite way. Like, he's a run-first coach. This is what he knows. This is what he'd always succeeded by. And at the precise moment where you think he's going to do one thing, he completely second guesses himself, which is the most un-Pete Carroll thing to do. This is exactly the opposite of what you'd expect Pete Carroll to do, which is what makes it fascinating from that perspective. The other one that I love, if you've watched the NFL America's Game of that season, is, and this, kudos to Bill Belichick, the ultimate chess master. They had actually in the hotel room done a walkthrough of that goal line defense and run the play and countered for the rub at the line of scrimmage that ultimately springs Butler to make the play on the ball, which is just next level. Like, to think that they'd done it that morning. They predicted that if they're in this situation and if they run this play, this is how we're going to counter it. And they did it, and they won the trophy.
Yeah, and from what I understand, like, as I said, they ran through it, but they used a look that they hadn't used all season. So for the Seahawks, they kind of look at it and it's like, what's this? Because you think, you're so prepared, you're ready for everything, and then you get thrown, right, with 59 minutes and 30 seconds gone on the clock. It's like, hang on, what is this? And yes, that's where Bill Belichick absolutely shines. Is he takes what you think you're going to get and he undermines it, and you start questioning yourself.